Hello, and welcome to the Quiet and Strong podcast, especially for introverts. I'm your host, David Hall, and the creator of quietandstrong.com. This is a weekly podcast dedicated to understanding the strengths and needs of introverts. Introversion is not something to fix, but something to be embraced. Normally, we'll air each episode on Mondays, so be sure to subscribe. So I'm often asked, what is the best job for an introvert? I know a guy that works a behind-the-scenes job in a large IT department, keeping the computers going for the company. In his position, he has relatively little interaction with others. That's a perfect job for an introvert, right? Well, maybe, but keep in mind that all introverts are not alike. Actually, although I'm an introvert, I think a position like this would not have enough people interaction for me. In my job, I have a mix of working alone on projects, working on various teams, leading teams. I know most of the people in my organization, as I've spent many years there. It's important for me to have great relationships and have a voice in the organization. I thrive in being able to contribute big ideas and being part of the decision-making process and being recognized for great work. So, while he may love this job, and I hope that he does, a behind-the-scenes job like this wouldn't work for me. And that's the thing. What do you want, and how do you get it? So, in my opinion, most jobs could be held by either an introvert or extrovert. An introvert's going to bring a different set of skills than the extrovert would. But in most positions, either could excel. So, what's the best job for introverts? My answer is the job that uses a person's individual strengths and fulfills their needs. There's far too many stereotypes. And again, introverts are about half the population, so that's a little bit much to stereotype half the population. I know there's plenty of jobs I would probably dread. Just the thought of outside sales sends me into a cold sweat. However, if that was something I wanted to do, I could excel at doing it in my way, where I utilize my strengths. The way I would work would look much different than an extroverted salesperson. My friend Matthew Pollard has written an entire book, The Introvert's Edge, How the Quiet and Shy Can Outsell Anyone. And this book's packed with stories and strategies and how to make a process that will work for you as an introvert. The success is by honoring your introversion and not by acting like an extrovert. And he recently released his second book, The Introvert's Edge to Networking. Both these books are a great source of finding your strength and doing things in an introverted way, and I highly recommend both of them. So, while a career in outside sales is not my dream job, and many introverts would feel the same, it's an example that you shouldn't generalize that all introverts shouldn't choose any particular career. Because again, there's many successful introverted salespeople. So we all have strengths. What are yours? I love how Seth Godin defines art in his book Lynchpin. He says, what makes someone an artist? I don't think it has anything to do with a paintbrush. There are painters who follow the numbers, or paint billboards, or work in a small village in China painting reproductions. These folks, while swell people, are an artist. On the other hand, Charlie Chaplin is an artist beyond a doubt. So is Jonathan Ive, who designed the iPod. You can be an artist who works with paints or marble, sure. But there are artists who work with numbers, business models, and customer conversations. Art is about intent and communication, not substances. End quote. As in the examples above, my accountant is an artist with numbers. So thankfully, I don't have to be. At my bank, there's a customer service artist that always has the biggest smile and remembers my name and the names of everyone else. I was in the drive-thru, and even before I sent the tube in, He said, "Hey, how are you, Mr. Hall?" And I don't even go to the bank that often, but his ability to interact with customers is very impressive. As an introvert, I like to consider myself an artist of business models and developing better ways to serve those I work with as well as our clientele. Godin goes on to say, art is an act of personal courage, something one human does that creates change in another. I love that quote. I am definitely not good with the paintbrush. My skills in painting are probably about as good as they were when I was 10 or 11. But I do have introverted gifts that I like to call art. However, I've only considered myself an artist the past few years. Once I started looking at my strengths in my introverted traits instead of looking at them as weaknesses. I hope that you have found your art. So, when it comes to meaningful work, it comes down to a few fundamental criteria. Passion. When you love your work and spend most of your time working within your strengths, it doesn't feel like work. Life is too short to dread every Monday. Sometimes I hear people that aren't very old talking about how they can't wait to retire. Oh, that is so sad. It's like, live now. Retirement will come someday, but live for the moment and enjoy what you're doing. The next thing is purpose. Do you feel like you're making a difference? And again, there's so many ways of making a difference. Are you making the lives of those around you better for the work that you're doing? And of course, there needs to be a payment. Does your work provide you the income you need for the immediate time and, of course, the long run as well? If someone tries to tell me that money doesn't matter, I can't help but think they've never gone too long without it. I've been in both, and you need to have the money that you need to have for the immediate and for the long term. You need to have what you need to provide. And also, you need to make sure your primary needs are met. Does the working situation allow you to address your needs as an introvert? As an introvert, I need some quiet time, but I also need some time working and interacting with others. Your needs may be different than mine, as you may want to mostly work alone, or you might want some other combination. Or you may want a completely quiet atmosphere or work better when there is noise. But the important piece is to find this situation that allows you to be your best because your needs are being met most of the time. So don't fall into believing that because you're an introvert, you're limited to doing specific jobs or you shouldn't try for something you truly love. There is no best job for all introverts. But if you find the job that meets your introvert needs, utilizes your strengths, gives you purpose, and pays your bills, you've found the winner. I love the work I'm doing and do not dread each week while waiting for the weekend. Maybe you're not there yet. Maybe you want to move up in your current job or enhance your existing job skills. Marcus Buckingham said in Go Put Your Strength to Work, we simply need to learn how to take our existing job and each week reshape it around our strengths, even in the face of interference from the world around us. To do this, we need to master a new discipline, one that brings order and focus to a series of incremental moves. Put this discipline into practice each week, and we will gradually, degree by degree, tilt the playing field so that the best of our job becomes the most of our job. End quote. I've personally done this very thing in my own life. It happened gradually, just as Buckingham describes. As an introvert, I do excel at thinking about things. And as an example, I'm very good at strategizing on how to best use resources and sometimes do more with less. It started with putting an idea forward and being allowed to pursue it, and then another idea and another. This has resulted in spending most of my day working within my strengths. Your strengths might not be the same as mine, but think about your own strengths. What special talents do you possess as an introvert, and how can you put those to use? Or maybe you want a new job altogether, or to start your own business, or to do some endeavor on the side. Keep working at it. Keep researching. Keep planning. It'll happen. It may take some time to get the fulfilling work you seek. And keep in mind that there's probably not the perfect job. In most jobs, there will always be some work that's not within your strengths. But I like how Donald Clifton and Marcus Buckingham put it in Now Discover Your Strengths. Our research into human strengths does not support the extreme and extremely misleading assertion that you can play any role you set your mind to. But it does lead us to this truth. Whatever you set your mind to, you'll be most successful when you craft your role to play to your signature talents most of the time. End quote. So don't try to be like others. What is this dream you have, and why not you? Nobody's better. I've heard it say that everyone has the same 24 hours. Just sometimes people use their hours better than somebody else. And I do believe that the successful people use their strengths during those 24 hours. We could also apply this to leadership. Sometimes people say, do introverts make great leaders? And of course, my answer is, of course they do. It just may look different. In Leadership Based Styles by Tom Rath and Barry Conchie, leadership styles are divided into 4 different types: executing, influencing, relationship building, and strategic thinking. The way they define it, I fall in the strategic thinking category. Strategic thinking is described as those who are able to keep people focused on what they could be, are constantly pulling a team and its members into the future. They continually absorb and analyze information and help the team make better decisions. End quote. Analyzing situations and thinking about how to improve is a natural gift for me, and one I often use as a leader. Does this mean I don't execute, influence, or build relationships? Absolutely not. I must do all these things. But the point is, I'm going to go about them in a different way as an introvert. For an example, when I need to influence or sell an idea, I'm going to prepare and analyze the best way to do it. I may not have the same charisma that an influencer may have, but I can bring my passion and paint a clear picture of a brighter future. I can also use another strategy and partner up with someone who has a natural talent in persuasion. I have learned that partnership is very important, as no one person has all strengths. So we need to stop asking if introverts can be a great leader or great you fill in the blank, or questioning in a way that places limits based on personality style. Instead, a better question would be, what does an introvert need to do to be successful? And what are the best ways for an introvert to approach a particular situation? Don't compare yourself to a person that has different gifts than you, but rather embrace those gifts that are uniquely yours. Here's another example. My friend was telling me that his son was interested in acting, but he was concerned that his son wouldn't succeed because he was an introvert. Quickly, I let him know that being an introvert doesn't exclude anyone from any career. We just are going to do things differently. We discussed that introversion is not about your confidence or lack of confidence, social ability, or social desire. Introverts just spend more time getting lost in their world of ideas. Introverts can often have vivid imaginations and a rich inner life. So, can my friend's son be an actor? Absolutely. There are many stereotypes like this of careers that introverts should and shouldn't do. This show is all about myth busting. In fact, I've heard that many actors are introverts. When it comes to the acting example, what might attract an introvert to acting? What strengths do they bring? Any needs to be aware of? So, I'm not much of an actor unless you count the couple of plays I was in as a kid. However, I do love to perform. My performances take the form of presentations and speeches. I'm going to answer the three questions that I just mentioned with my own experience and my love and need to perform. You can relate this to acting or to any similar job that you're thinking of. And in the case of any career, you can ask these same three questions. What attracted you to this profession or activity? What strengths do you bring? What needs do you have? All introverts are not alike, so the answers will vary by person. Yet, there are some commonalities that can be helpful to discuss. So, why do I like to give presentations and speeches? As an introvert, I have many ideas. I happen to think they're all good. I love to share them. In a presentation or speech, I can prepare those thoughts and concepts ahead of time and put them into a coherent and hopefully powerful and impactful message. Also, as an introvert, I'm very reflective. And so some of the absurdities of life are very apparent to me. And so I like to think I'm funny sometimes. It's also nice to share my thoughts in a way I want without interruptions. So, what strengths do I have? In this example, I think deeply. I like to think of how I can make the world a better place for my family, friends, colleagues, and the world. I'm a big picture person, and I can also take into account the details. For example, I see how we are all unique and have our own gifts and strengths. Yet there are helpful patterns of personality that we can be aware of for ourselves and others. So I can share this message in a presentation or speech. In this example, I want to help people understand themselves and others, and that's why I want to give presentations. But what do I need? When it comes to presentations and speeches, I need to spend some time to prepare. I know some people that can wing it and give a great speech. That's not me. I can give a great speech, but it's going to be best with plenty of preparation. It's also helpful to know what gives you energy and what drains you. Things you enjoy may still be draining. I love giving speeches, but find it's best if I can have a little downtime soon after to recharge. Of course, all introverts do not want to be actors or give speeches. The point is, first figure out what you want to do. Then ask yourself how you go about it. This can be applied to more than just career choices. You can use it to design an approach to relationships, communication, leadership, productivity, just your overall success and happiness. So, for fun, I've been looking online for best jobs for introverts or best jobs for extroverts. You know, there might be a list, top 10 jobs for introverts. And so, as I look down the list for either, it's just funny because I see in almost every single job I looked at, I saw that an introvert or extrovert could be very successful in that role. Again, the how is going to look different. So here's a list I found for extroverts. And as I reviewed this list, I definitely have known or know of both successful introverts in most of these roles. And some I have personal experience with. So let's see. In this one list, we had public relations, social media, business management. Again, we talked about leadership. Introverts can make great leaders, and extroverts can make great leaders. Politics, there's both great politicians that are extroverts and introverts. Sales, we talked about sales. Event planning. You know, as part of my job, I've planned a big event each year for a number of years, and I actually really enjoy it, and I think I'm kind of good at it. In my case, I don't do it alone because I realize that the way I look at the world isn't going to appeal to everybody. It's going to appeal to a lot of people, but I put people around me, just like we were talking about partnerships. So I enjoy event planning as part of my job. I think I bring a lot of great skills to it, but I also make it a team approach. And so I make sure that I include people that are going to have some different ideas and think differently than me. Customer service management, teaching and education. I've spent most of my life in higher education, and there's definitely introverts and extroverts aplenty. A flight attendant. So this list again says that you have to be an extrovert. Well, it doesn't say you have to be, but it says that it's a good job for extroverts. And this one I've never really thought of, so I went ahead and just looked it up. Can you be an introvert and a flight attendant? And of course, exactly what I was saying, earlier. You can. Just you need to know what your strengths are, what your needs are. And I'd like to think, maybe you love interacting with people for short periods of time, but you need some downtime. And it seems like as a flight attendant, you would get plenty of downtime. Maybe it's not enough, but what the article I read said is either an introvert or extrovert could be successful in that role, just like I thought. Law, healthcare, social work and community health, cosmetology. So, I had to laugh when I read that one because it's like, as an introvert, I may prefer to have an introvert cutting my hair, although I haven't had a haircut for a long time now in 2020. But anyway, I don't mind talking to people, but sometimes it's nice to not, if an introvert's cutting your hair, it's kind of nice not to have the pressure to fill the whole time with conversation and not mind a little silence. Acting. We already talked about that one. Coaching. Again, I've seen great coaches as extroverts and great coaches as introverts. It's just your approach, the gifts you bring, they're going to be different. Counseling, consulting. As we look down these lists, it's really not can you do these jobs? What strengths do you have? What do you need? Are you passionate about this role? What's your purpose? Do you find great purpose in it? Does it pay the bills? And then what's it going to take to get there? What about the training and education you need? This is an area of expertise for me, and we could spend another episode on that in the future. Also, along with that, we could talk about, the successful job hunt for the introvert. But keeping in mind when it comes to training and education, there's many pathways to follow. And it's not that, one level of education is better than another, but it comes down to what do you need to get what you want? And that's the idea. In my experience in college, I changed my university major 3 times. At first, I was good at math, so I was told, oh, you should be an engineer. And then I started to take those classes and realize this isn't how I want to use my strengths. I might not have thought about it exactly like that at the time. And then I thought I'd be a computer scientist because, they made a lot of money, right? And I got a little ways down that road and realized that it wasn't the best fit for me either. But yet, in my current role, I do work with my IT department often. And with that background, I understand what they need. And I think that, I can relate to what they're asking for and sometimes even interpret for other people and helping other people to see what they might need as they support us in our technology. And then I finally settled on psychology because I had a great desire to help others and myself along the way. I'm getting this degree in psychology and I'm planning on going to graduate school, which I did later. But I remember just people do bug you, like, well, what are you going to do with that degree in psychology? And I can remember reading books or looking on the website what to do with a degree in psychology. And I remember reading about working in a think tank. And man, that sounded awesome to me, right? But being young and not having much experience, I had very little chance of working in a think tank right outside of college. But many years later, and much experience later, I have had many think tank type experiences using my expertise that I gained over the years. In Matthew Kelly's book Off Balance, he calls this being in the room. And I love that. You know, for me as a deep thinker and as a strategizer, it's very satisfying to be with intelligent people thinking through and solving problems while coming up with very innovative ideas. And so there's many roles that I could do that same type of work in. And again, I have a full-time job, but I also run a business with my wife. I also am running quiet and strong, and I have many opportunities to use my gifts, and they could be used in many different areas. So you may not be ready to get your dream job yet, but the question is, what's it going to take to get there? There is so much great information out there, so many tools to help you become more self aware, and so much where you could learn about various careers and opportunities. It's important to take time to research and plan and reflect on where you are and where you want to go. I've really begun to understand my introversion, and so at this stage in my career, I have even more strategies to be successful at work. But as you're moving into your new role, or you're improving on your existing role, or you're starting a new business, whatever it is, there's going to be setbacks. And I've learned that setbacks are often when we grow the most. And I've learned this over and over again. And I've seen this over and over again for many people. So hang in there. One example of how my struggle has created growth. I've been very busy for many years now, and it's really forced me into studying various time management strategies to being able to accomplish more with the same or even sometimes less resources and time. Just when I think I'm getting more done, I get more to do. This was a struggle for me. It still is, but it's gotten so much better. I've gotten so much better at prioritizing and really getting things done. And it was only through the struggle that I developed systems that really worked for me. And of course, this led to my first book, Minding Your Time, Time Management, Productivity, and Success, especially for introverts. So things may get tough, but they will get better, and you will be stronger. So hang in there. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to further connecting with you. Reach out at quietandstrong.com. Email me at david@quietandstrong.com. I'll add social media channels to the show notes. Send me topics or questions and we can address those on the show. There's so many great things about being an introvert, and so we need those to be understood. Let's keep the conversation going. Get to know your introverted strengths and needs and be strong.